Are you looking to sharpen your budgeting skills? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast, where we talk about life, family, and how to afford it. And now, the Budget Couple themselves, Nate and Danielle.
Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast. I'm Nate.
And I'm Danielle.
And this week we're going to kind of shoot from the hip here because we're going to be going over our budget and refining a few things. And we don't have any notes. We just kind of want to go through and do everything. First off, we'd like to apologize for the break we had. August wound up being kind of a crazy month for us between bathroom renovation. We went on vacation, and then we also had a kitchen renovation, all back to back to back. And in between there, either I, Danielle, or the baby was sick. And if you can tell, I'm still not feeling 100%. My voice is kind of shot. So,
and to add on to that, we are also potty training at the moment, and Nate is just getting back into school as well. So there's a lot.
But if I crack like a 13-year-old boy at any point during this, it's because my voice still isn't back, and I apologize. So we've kind of been looking over our budget here for the past few months, and it's not been working out great for us as far as hitting our goals.
Yeah, I mean, we've been off a lot. We have been going over. Now, granted, it's been a little weird and crazy because of the renovations. We've been buying a lot of random things for the house, more than what we normally would because of the renovations, and then also because of our trip to Disney and everything. But either way, we aren't staying on track with our budget, and we especially realize that there is a lot in that pesky miscellaneous category that we've talked about before, that is just the random things that come up each month that are like too big to go in our actual written down expenses because they would blow it out of the park for that month. So
yeah, we just kind of, it's like cheating almost a little bit. We know we have a budget set up for things, but we have this miscellaneous thing that has no theoretical cap. So we can just kind of throw whatever we want in there and still make the budget look like it's working, but it's not actually working.
And I mean, what it's doing is just decreasing the amount that we can put towards our house or towards now our home loan,
mortgage,
our home equity loan. So basically, it's not putting us in the dark. It's not like making us go into debt or dig into our savings, but it is reducing the amount that we can put towards our debt.
Yeah, and it's a long-term impact. It's one of those things that's each month, if you just put down what you owe, that's great. But we haven't historically done that. We've always paid stuff off far in advance. Our first car we ever bought as a couple, we paid off in 2 years. And I think every debt we've ever had, we've paid off sooner than what it was due on. And to continue on that trend, because it saves you a lot of money if you have interest, which our house definitely does. And actually our car doesn't, but pretty much everything else does have interest. Paying that stuff off early, if you have interest payments, saves you tons and tons of money in the long term.
Yeah, so we want to figure this out. So one of the things that we've been talking about is something we've talked about in other episodes of this, something Nate's parents actually do, where they take all those weird miscellaneous expenses, and they might be insurance, they might be big household items, they might be car repairs, a whole bunch of different things that are big ticket items that just kind of come up, but you don't always have a budget for. And they add them all up for the year and divide by 12. They take that amount out of their budget and put it into savings each month. So they have that set aside in savings to use when those miscellaneous things come up, rather than just taking it kind of out of a weird miscellaneous category.
Yeah. Now this requires a little bit more planning. It also requires a little bit more discipline, because you have to put that money into savings and know that it's not emergency fund. It's not something else. It's for these particular expenses when they come up. So it takes a little bit more work, but it's not like a crazy thing, especially us as spreadsheet nerds. It's kind of more of one of those fun tasks where we can track what we've saved over the course of the year and then be able to apply it to different things.
What Nate's parents actually do is use cash for this. We are not cash people, and we're just not going to. I know us, and I know we're not going to do it.
No, it would disappear from my wallet in about 4 days.
But if that's something that works really well for you, it's an option. You know, maybe you do credit cards and debit cards for everything else, but you choose that this miscellaneous money you put aside each month as cash, and you have it somewhere stashed away in your house. And when you have car repairs, you take it out of that cash and just use it in that case.
Yeah. And again, cash doesn't work for us. So we're going to go through the process here that we normally talk about. Again, we have no notes. The only thing on our computer screen right now is literally a blank spreadsheet and then our actual budget. Those are the only two things on there. They're kind of in split screen mode. And we're just going to kind of go through our budget and figure out what we should be putting into savings to account for those bigger expenses so that our miscellaneous doesn't mess us up every month.
So I guess I'll start. The big things that I can think of that we pay each year are car insurance. And Nate's going to take notes for us.
If you can hear me typing, I apologize. I'm just going through. Car insurance costs us about $1,200 a year. So I'm just keeping track of what all this stuff costs us. We also have life insurance. We have term life insurance. I believe we've done an episode on that.
We have.
I'll link it in the show notes. I don't remember what episode that was. You can see how prepared we are here. But I'll go through and talk about that later, or you can listen to the episode later. But life insurance, I believe my term life insurance is about $400 a year, and I believe yours is about $300.
We're guesstimating right now because we, again, didn't prepare, so we don't have all the numbers, but we're just getting some rough estimates so we have some idea of how much we might want to put away.
Yeah, and if we're off by $100, it's not a bad thing to have an extra $100 in your savings account. So that's not a big deal. Now, I think that's only I can't really think of any other big yearly expenses that we have. Can you?
No, I think the next biggest would probably be any sort of car repairs or home repairs that we may have. And that one's probably the toughest one because you can't actually know for sure. It's not a definite cost. It's something that might come up.
Right. Well, car repairs as far as maintenance stuff is definitely going to come up, and that's definitely something we can figure out. But as far as home repairs, I generally try to classify those as an emergency item. Because that stuff just pops up. What I would like to do is put a category for home improvement so that we have some money set aside when we want to do something, we can do it. So if we want to paint something, we have the money set aside to go out and get paint. We don't have to put that on something else. But let's go back to repairs. Car repairs, our electric car, we have to rotate the tires once a year because we don't drive that many miles on it. That's $20 to $40. And the Civic, which is our other car, I think that only gets 2 oil changes a year and tire rotations. We're not big mile drivers, and that car can go a long time between oil changes. So I'm going to guess about $250 a year probably covers everything car repair wise.
Now, that doesn't count for if we have a bigger repair need.
Right. But we have a deductible with our insurance, and that would come out of our emergency fund because that would represent itself as our emergency. If we wanted to, we could put our deductible aside into savings so that we have that at all times. But again, I don't think that's a necessity. If we have a crash fund, that's what the emergency
that would be a crash
fund.
Yeah, that would be a crash fund to me too. But there are like the maintenance at 50,000 miles and maintenance at 100,000 especially for our Civic, which is a gas car and requires a bit more, has belts and spark plugs and such.
It has about 70,000 miles on it, so it's still a little ways away. It's probably a year or two away from needing some major stuff, so I'm comfortable leaving it a little lower right now, and then we could pump it up once we get up in miles and decide that we need to start doing that.
So maybe that's a yearly thing where you revisit these amounts per year if you have something else.
So at the beginning of every school year, we're going to come back and readdress our yearly expenses because it's a good time just as a marker when school's back in. I was going to say when the kids go back to school, but when I go back to school, we kind of have an idea of when things start. So going back to that home improvement, do you agree, disagree, not like, love, hopefully love?
Well, so we have, going to our actual budget right now, we have 2 categories set in stone that have caps on them, and that's random and going out. So the going out is any sort of entertainment or out to eat, that sort of thing. We have that set at $250. And then we have random, which is where we typically put home improvement type of things, where if we need to get paint or we need to get any cleaning supplies or something, we put it in that random category. So is $250 a month enough? And
it probably is, in all honesty. I think I'm a little project focused right now because we did a lot of projects, and I repaired the fence. I stained and finished the fence. What else did I do? I didn't do that much else.
We got a few half finished projects.
There's a lot of half finished projects, but they did require money. They're just not totally done yet.
I mean, I think to some extent it's probably fair, just because what's hard about the home improvement, at least what's been our experience, is that it comes in spurts. So we'll have like a spurt of like spending $300 a month in random materials because Nate has a project or two going on. And then there'll be other months where there's like nothing at all or like very little that can fit easily into that random category.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's why I kind of wanted to have a home improvement budget. I mean, I'm talking like $50 a month, just something that is there as a buffer in case we have one of those big spurts or big things that come up where we want to do something that's going to cost more than $250 or $100 or something like that.
I'm willing to consider it.
Okay, so I'm going to put 50 in there for right now.
50 a month or 50 a year?
50 a month, not a year.
These are yearly.
Oh, so that's $600 a year. They can't see this, but for those of you listening, I typed in 50 on the expense there because it's $50 a month, and $50 a month is $600 a year.
Anyway, the other thing that always bugs me, and it's actually sitting on there right now in our miscellaneous category, is birthdays. We always put birthdays in the miscellaneous category, and obviously they happen every year, so we should really be taking these into account, at least the ones we know we always buy for. So each other and both sets of parents and Nate's sister as well.
And the baby.
And yes.
Yeah, and our son.
And our son. His has gone up in cost a bit, but
yes, it has.
So let's see. We usually spend.
So that's about 8 people.
Yeah.
I'd say we spend roughly $100 between Father's Day, Mother's Day.
Oh, those two. I forgot.
Yeah, not just birthdays, but all the other days that add up. And if we wanted to add in Christmas and all that stuff, then it gets a little bit more expensive. We'd probably spend about $150 a person.
All right.
Does that sound about right?
I could say it's even more than that, actually.
How much do you think it is?
Well, if you add in all of them, it might be close. Well, let's just average. That's a good average for now.
Okay. So we average spending $150 a person for 8 people. That works out to $1,200 a year.
And that's average to cost, again, like all the birthdays, all the Christmases, all the Father's, Mother's Days, across the board. So, I mean, obviously you can be much more exact with this, and we may go back and try and be more exact as well, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you think of any others? I have one other thing that I have in mind.
I'm sitting there looking at the miscellaneous category and thinking about what else we tend to put in there.
But the other one I'm thinking of is clothing. Either for us, for Grant, or for, well, that's really all we buy clothing for. I was going to say the dogs, but we don't buy clothing for them.
Typically I put most of my clothing on my own budget because it's usually not a necessity. It's something I really want, and I like shopping for clothes. So
yeah, clothes for me are a total necessity thing. I am not a clothes shopper. I think all the clothes shopping I've done in the past year and a half has been on Amazon. I don't need to try it on. I just need it to get shipped to my house so I can not have to go to stores and talk to people.
So I guess my thing is I would rather keep it in the random. I'm trying to think about what we want for the random category and what we want.
That's true.
In
we don't want
to
to totally erase the random.
We have $250 set aside for it.
Okay, that's fair.
So I would say maybe try and space it out though more. You tend to like have like a shopping spree like once every 2 years.
It's called Amazon Prime Day.
And you'll spend a few $100s or something. So it's like easier if you can space it out a little bit. Like if you're in need of socks, go ahead and just buy them.
Okay.
So I think that would help even that out a little bit, and we'd still be able to put it in random. And, as I'm thinking through random, I think that should be reserved for obviously smaller ticket items, things like I said before, cleaning supplies that we may need, just random little gadgets or things for the house. Clothes, you need a pair of shoes or something like that. Haircuts is another thing.
Oh, yeah, we always put haircuts on there.
So
mine are always $22, $19 plus a $3 tip.
Mine are not. Mine are not. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to stick with for random, where it's the not super fun things. It's not going out, but it's not like big enough to be put into a yearly type of expense. Okay,
so is there anything else that you can think of that we spend money on yearly, or things that we should set aside?
Vet bills.
Vet bills, does that go into the dog's budget?
That does go into the dog budget. We just increase. We have a pet category, and when we do the vet, we usually just pop it up to $200 for that month.
Yeah, because what we usually do is we have $50 set aside for the dogs every month, and we do not spend $50 on the dogs each month. I think our dog food is around $30 a month. Does that sound about right? So there's an extra $20 in the budget, but that doesn't actually go into savings. That just disappears.
It's just there.
It's just gone.
So another option for the pets could be to go ahead and actually put $50 a month away. on top of the food.
So that's $600 a year, not 50 like I put in before. So we could put that into the breakdown and to have that set up. The only thing that we have to do is we should probably minus out the cost of food out of that because that is a monthly expense and that is fixed. So we probably spend on vet bills probably about $400 a year on the dogs. Does that sound about right? Ish.
Yeah, probably a little higher, but yeah.
Do you want to put it at 500?
Well, I'm also thinking about HeartGuard and
oh yeah, so maybe 600 is accurate. With
600 is probably accurate because we do usually
vet bills, HeartGuard, and what's the flea and tick stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably pretty accurate. And I think this is actually an important one to add, even though like all of our stuff is routine thus far. We've been super lucky with both dogs. We don't have any pet insurance, and I actually don't really recommend it because usually it's not the greatest deal from everything I've read thus far. So it is nice to have a little cushion in there for pets in case something were to come up. Although I would see that, depending on the severity, I would see that as an emergency crash.
I agree. They're part of the family. We treat them the same as family no matter what. So that's part of it. But I think to more accurately get our budget in track for monthly expenses, having that set aside, that extra $600 will help absorb those prices and have things set up there. So do we have anything else that falls under the yearly? I'm really struggling to think of anything.
Me too. I really can't think of anything. The only other thing I can think of is trips. We usually go on at least one biggish trip a year, but we typically decide on that, figure out what the budget's going to be and start like putting money away, or we just blow out our budget for 1 month to get the plane tickets and hotels. So we're not the greatest with trying to,
and that's so variable as well.
Yeah,
like,
it's hard to know.
Depending on where we're going or the time we buy or what we're doing, it could be a very easy expense or it could be something where we have to kind of plan on and take some time. So I'm tempted to leave that one out just because that's such an unknown, whereas all these other ones are pretty well-defined, known things.
Yeah, I would agree. I would leave trips out and just kind of keep that as a separate item to save for as needed.
All right, so let's go through and total up all of these expenditures. We have car insurance at $1,200, life insurance at $700, car repairs at $250, home improvement at $600, birthdays, gifts at $1,200, and then pets at $600. When we total all of that up, that's $4,550 a year.
That's terrifying.
That we need to put away to be able to save properly on our budget. So if I divide that by 12, that's basically about $380 a month. Danielle's face is priceless right now. She's terrified by that amount of money.
But I mean, we're going to be spending it regardless. So, it's whether we divvy it up over the year and we have that money set aside in savings to pay for it each month, or we put it on that miscellaneous category and we take it out of what we're going to put towards our house or our loan. Right.
Essentially, the main question that we need to answer, and I don't think we have an answer for this yet, is do we want to be able to put the consistent same amount of money down on the house every month that we know that we're going to be able to put extra, or do we want to be able to put a bunch in 1 month and then maybe not enough the next month?
Yeah, it's an inconsistency issue. I'm thinking through it, and if you really get down to the dollars and cents, it's probably better to keep doing what we're doing right now because at least we're able to we're putting that extra money into like retirement funds and such. So you're obviously making a little bit on your money, whereas putting into savings, you're making nothing on it.
It's probably a very minuscule amount.
It's a very small amount.
$300, $400 isn't going to make you crazy money, but it's something that we have to decide on because that's a bigger number than I thought it would be. How about you?
Yes, a lot bigger. I was expecting us to
it was like 200.
Yeah, maybe $150, $200.
Where it's double that. And that's a little bit more scary, more serious of a number where we really need to consider how we want to do this.
But I actually really like the idea of knowing exactly what our budget's going to be each month, like having that laid out and not having any variability or at least very little variability. So essentially, I think it's worth trying for a couple months or a few months maybe and just see how it works. It is going to be a little awkward for the first little bit because we won't have enough built up in savings to account for some of the things as they come up.
But luckily, we're not going to have many expenditures in those fields, I don't think, in this time frame.
No.
Our car insurance isn't due until
November,
December. So we'll
later.
So we'll have that money built up because after 2 months, we basically have all of the money that we need for these things saved. Now they all come in different waves and stuff, but I think by that time we'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's going to take maybe 2 to 3 months to build stuff up properly, but I think it's worth trying.
All right. Well, if you don't have anything else there, Danielle, I think that wraps it up for this episode because my voice is about to give out and I'd like to go rest. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, we just want to also say that we're happy to be back. And again, sorry for the delay there. And we did get a really good question right before we completely fell off the map. So we are planning on digging into that and answering it on air next time.
Yes. So we'll be back soon. If you have any questions for us, you can always visit our website, budgetcouple.com, and click on the contact page. Shoot us an email. We'll get back to you and we'll answer your question on air. But please let us know if anything happens and we'll be happy to help you out with your budget or your budget questions. Also, please make sure you review us on your podcast listening app of choice. It helps grow the show and we've gotten some really nice reviews and we really, really appreciate it.
And Nate sounds especially desperate tonight with his voice. So.
Yes. So from the bottom of my achy heart here, well, achy voice, I guess, please review us. It will help us out a lot and we greatly appreciate it. Guys, thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate your time and please keep the questions coming so that we can help you with your budgeting journey.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Budget Couple Podcast with your hosts, Nate and Danielle. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit budgetcouple.com. Make sure to check out the next episode of the Budget Couple Podcast, where we'll talk more about life, family, and how to afford it. We'll catch you next time.